So today I'm going to talk to you about the BRC controller. This is the Daikin BRC controller. There's a bunch of different versions of it. How do you know what version that you have? If you actually look down at the bottom right left hand side here, look at this patchwork. Beautiful. Right here, my master bedroom. This is a BRC 1E73. The 73 is the newer version, 71 is older, 72s are out there. Remember, the older your version, the less features that you have available to you. Now this is detailed mode. What is detailed mode? Well, if I click on the middle button here and I go down to configuration, I can go down to display, and I have here different display modes. I have detailed, I have standard, and I have simple. Simple just allows me to take less away from the screen. Big numbers makes everybody happy. I like detail because I like to have the details. Now, the reason why we would change these types of modes is because if the client or customer is only going to complain about what they see, it's sometimes better to just leave it in standard. And the reason we leave it in standard is because it only tells you what the set point is and the fan speed and what mode it is in. Now, you also notice here at the top, it says something called master controlled. Master controlled tells me that there's another controller on this heat pump. This is VRV-S, right? So single phase VRV. Master control means there's another thermostat that is the master controller. It's designed to change over from cooling to heating. You'll also notice here I have a schedule that's on the clock up in the top right. But the purpose of this video is not just to show you those details and the ins and outs, but to show you the menus. What do I mean by menus? Service menus. So we click any button to light up the screen, hold down the cancel button for 5 seconds. In the process of holding down the cancel button for 5 seconds, you get what we call is service settings. Service settings has things like test operation, maintenance contacts, field settings. That's where you change things like what fan speed it runs at whenever it satisfies in cooling or heating, or if it has a drain alarm, or to turn the drain pump off, or to offset the thermostat. Energy savings options. This is where you would come to lock out specific controls like set point range limitations, setback configuration. Prohibited functions. Maybe you want to lock out specific buttons or specific modes. You would do that here as well. Minimum set point differential. This gets a lot of people. From the factory, it comes up set up as single set point. That means that in heating and cooling, it monitors the same set point. That means that if the system switches over, it's still going to try to maintain that same set point. I have it on a 3-degree deadband because I like there to be a difference between what my cooling set point's at and what my heating set point's at if I put it in auto. Okay, I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to change that. When I do change that, it resets the thermostat. If I go down some more, there's the good stuff. Indoor AirNet address. Now, group address would be here if I had a centralized controller or if I had service checker hooked up, which I do not. So all I get is indoor AirNet address. Indoor AirNet address is the specific address number for this. You'll notice the 0 pops up here on the left-hand side. The reason the 0 pops up here on the left-hand side is because maybe I have 6 indoor units tied to this one BRC controller. And if I do, I could cycle through by pressing the up button or the down button and change the AirNet address of each individual unit as they're programmed. Right now I only have one, which is why this number doesn't change. Now if I want to change the AirNet address, I hit right, and I can hit up or down. After I release it, press the middle button to release it. See here, release and change it. Okay, now it's saved. I always tell people to cancel, go out, go back in if you want to see it again. Yes, confirmed. AirNet addresses 2. Now, on my service checker, this unit will show up as indoor unit number 2. If I'm doing repairs on a system, if I'm trying to find problems on a system, that number 2 is extremely important. Error history. Now, this is the reason we set up the clock function. Without the clock function, without the date and the time, I have no record of errors. Oh, look at that. I've got a U4, an L5, all this fun stuff. Now, the L5 actually happened when we lost power to the house. And I ran the system on the generator, and come to find out my plug melted on my compressor. So easy fix. But look, this is the error codes without the date and the time set on the clock function. At the very beginning when I commission this thermostat, I will have nothing here. It'll be zeros and zeros. And these error codes will be, okay, sure, it had an error, but when did it happen? At what time did it happen? This is why setting up the clock and the time is so important. And then indoor AirNet address or indoor AirNet errors. L5 was the only one registered for the system. That's the difference. RC error is at this RC controller and not the system itself. And you'll notice here I had some U4s, some UOs, good stuff. Okay. Outdoor unit status. Now this is going to depend upon the type of unit that you have hooked up and what series it is. I have 45 degrees and I have 93 degrees. And typically these refer to the saturation temperature for my evaporator, and then the 93 is usually my TCs, TE and TC. Now this changes based upon the unit that you have. If you have multiple units, you can cycle through the sensors. And then the other one, this is the second most important, well, probably maybe the most important. This is your indoor unit status. I have an FXMQ PAVJU series. Specific indoor units will have all sensors listed. Not all units have the sensors. Older units like DQs don't have it. TQs don't have it. And you'll see here, I have return temp, 76 degrees. This is leaving my expansion valve, saturated vapor, TH2. This is my liquid sensor listed on service checker. TH3 is my suction thermistor. This is superheat leaving my coil. And then the 59 degrees is actually my discharge air temp leaving my evaporator coil, leaving my unit. This is my BRC controller, and then this is what my service checker sees, 75 degrees. So all these thermistors mean something, and in the service manual it actually tells you what they are. But again, return temp, leaving expansion valve temp, then you've got your 64 degree, which is your suction temp, discharge air temp, which is on SQs or MQs, and then 75, 75. So what the centralized controller would see and also what the BRC is reporting. Now, this is good. Forced fan on mode, switch main subcontrollers can be done here, filter indicator turned off. Now that's the service settings. There's another menu that's below the service settings. And so if we hold down the cancel button again, here we go. We go into the maintenance menu. Why do I like the maintenance menu better? Maintenance menu will give you the model number. If the unit is really old, it will not give you anything. I have a newer model, which is from, I think, 2018. So FXMQ07PAVJU, outdoor unit. This designation doesn't mean anything. It is actually a 5-ton, so, 006. Again, I don't have the designations for those, so don't ask. Operation hour. How long have my unit been in operation? Fan hours, power hours, and then operation hours. And then outdoor unit status. Again, not supported in our market. You notice here that my evaporation temperature has come down and my TC has gone up. And when I say TC, remember this is my condensing saturation. This is my head pressure. And these are live. So why do I like these numbers? Why do I like looking at them on the BRC? These update about every 5 seconds on my system, as opposed to waiting on service checker to update every couple minutes, every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Indoor unit status. This is why I like maintenance menu. It tells me my valve pulses, my fan RPMs. I'm set to high. Any of my safeties that might be tripped or set or even off, I can see all of those registered here. I hit the right arrow, my float switch is closed, my T1, T2 is open, and then my sensors are at the end. So I have 3 menus here in maintenance menu, right? I can actually watch my valve pulses change over time, which is extremely valuable. And then over time, I can also, again, I can confirm all the accessories that might be hooked up, what's opening, what's closing, what's running, what's not. If my T1, T2 is open, if my float switch is tripped, all that stuff is here at the maintenance menu, and it's constantly changing. Look, 43, 58. Remember, my pulses, they went up, right? They went from 712 to 744, and they're going to continue to go up. And I'm going to watch this superheat climb to 9, right? We want a 9-degree superheat between these two, and then my discharge temp. And so this is why I like the maintenance menu. Force defrost, error display, right? You can have warnings display, you can have errors display, swap unit number, and then address sensor value. That's something you would use on older units that don't actually register in that maintenance menu for indoor unit status. Not something I'm going to cover today, but again, these are your 2 menus that you have access to, not only just your service settings, but also your maintenance menu settings, which allow you to see things in a greater detail. When do you use them? Why do you use them? Well, if I'm using them, again, hold down the cancel button for 5 seconds, hold down the cancel button again for 5 seconds. I'm using this when I'm troubleshooting a unit and I'm making changes. I just changed the expansion valve and I want to turn it on, but I don't have time to go back to the roof to look at the service checker data. Well, I can go here and look, my pulses are climbing. I'm not going to find a faster way to refresh the data to see what's actually happening with my system than using the BRC controller that is here in the room. And if you don't have one in the room, I always recommend that you at least have one of these on your trucks at all time so that you can toss it on a system if you have to do exactly this. And now you can see here 48 and 53. That valve is probably going to start to close down because now I've overshot my 9-degree superheat and it's going to get lower and lower and lower. But yes, this is how you use the BRC controller for service aspects. This is how you navigate the menu. That's how you lock out buttons. There is an actual button press combination that will lock the thermostat to as well, which is in the service manual. If you need me to, I will make a video about that. But yes, this is the BRC 101 video of essentially everything you need to know on how to use it and what it's designed for. So hopefully you liked it.